So, it's a pleasure to be able to discuss with you gentlemen these issues. I'm a business school professor, so I'm not a techie. I'm not an official geek. I think it's Mr. Levy who's the official geek, it said in your CV, but I am interested in these issues because obviously they're business issues. And it's a busy day here in Munich. Dieter Kempf and I were at another meeting with IBM just a few hours ago. IBM is celebrating today and tomorrow the opening of its Internet of Things Center, Worldwide Center for Industry here in Munich, up in the northern part of Munich. So they've been spending all day talking about all the great things IoT is going to be able to do for everybody and everything. And every once in a while somebody said, oh, well, security. But then they went on to what the next great thing was going to be. But we just heard some of the challenges. So that's what we really want to talk about. And I'm told we have a hard cut at 5:30. So the next 42 minutes about the challenges and maybe what keeps some of you guys up at night and that sort of thing. So that's what I want to do. And I want to start first with the company representatives, because we really do have three leading companies, global companies, but German or European-based companies, Airbus, Siemens, and Bosch. Start with them and then go to the others. And maybe we could start with you, Mr. Dudok, talk about, I mean, there's not a better title, Airbus Defense and Space. And you've been in the security business for a long time. What do you see as the real challenges? What wakes you up at night? And what are some of the opportunities to deal with those challenges from an aerospace company?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michael. I think what keeps me up at night is very little, to be honest.
Well, that makes me feel better already.
Yes. Because let's be clear. Since 2010, Airbus has taken enormous efforts, driven by the CEO Tom Enders in those days and still today, on getting the cybersecurity as a game changer on the agenda. And since it's very much linked to cost and investment, and I like the idea of talking about investment, that has come top down. And it is a major challenge to get a company like Airbus with, I don't know, over 140,000 employees to try and get awareness into that company. And you can only do it by making, for example, in this case, the CTO responsible for cybersecurity. And the word security alone makes me worry because it sounds like, you're secure. Cyber resilience is much more my approach to things. But anyway, Airbus stands for safety and security. And it stands for things like security by design. If you go in planes, you want to make sure that this is a safe plane. And since all those planes by now and helicopters and whatever we build, I'm in defense and space, even more so, it has to be IT secure also. So having that driven from the top was a major move into the company. It was responsibility for the CTO. And by now, the last years, we have been investing more than 100 million. It's really big investments per year to get our cyber level up to the expectation. And I think today we can say, and let's say I'm leading the cyber team with about 650 people around the world. We are coming to the conclusion that we're not bad. And not bad is already something. Yeah, I want to be very honest. There's no such thing as total security. Yes, you put the famous castle walls around the castle and the golden nuggets are protected. We have 5 security operation centers, 1 for commercial and 4 national ones, Spain, Germany, UK, France. It's still very national, as you can imagine, when it comes to defense topics. And we are working a lot with partners, whether it is institutes like Fraunhofer or the university in Neubiberg, just to take the German elements, or we're working with companies like Atos. We just won an EU contract for cybersecurity protection of the member states to support that together with Atos, just to show it's not a fight alone at all. It's impossible to fight alone and to win alone. We're working with companies in Israel. We're working with companies in the United States. You need to have the best-in-class people working together to get those attackers that are wherever they are, but hopefully not in the US nor in Israel. We have to keep them out of our houses, and this is vital. We've worked a lot now in the last year really on getting the ICS topics under control, because they are a little bit on the side. Everybody thought, okay, the products, Airbus products are number one, security by design. The second thing was our kind of the IT systems. You know, you don't want to get rid of your intellectual property right. You know, you don't want to get your customer data or your personnel data into the open. That's obvious. But the ICS systems, they were, you know, those are investments 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, very, very big investments. They all operate Windows XP, not all of them, but lots of them still operate Windows XP, no longer supported. Windows XP has big security gaps, no longer supported by Microsoft. So we had to find solutions. The first thing we've now done is we come up with our innovation group with a solution that at least any USB stick that you put into the machine to do the maintenance or to do the upload of the new software, it gets a sheep dip, it gets the most up-to-date check that there's no viruses on. And it is automatically linked with our, let's say, APT database, so it is really the best we can do. The second thing we do is we monitor anybody that goes and does maintenance on any of our equipment. And we're on the road. It's a long road. There's many manufacturing facilities, there's many test facilities that we're operating. And then, of course, we monitor our facilities, our production facilities. Is any virus, is anything unusual? And here we work again with partners. It's not us that have all the knowledge. With partners. And then, of course, this is vital. If something happens, then you have to have the right awareness and the right procedures in place to do what you need to do. It's not that obvious to just say, ooh, something is happening, we switch it off or we do something. It's all quite tricky. So very conscious, very top-down, big investments. It's all about reputation. It's all about doing the right things. It's all about partnering across the world. And for example, if you go to Hannover, we'll be showing some of our solutions, especially on the ICS part with our partners at the CeBIT, and happy to help any critical industries, any critical infrastructure people. Let's say at least we can give advice. Maybe we can help you with security operations center or whatever. So it's a step in the right direction. It doesn't keep me awake at night, but it is an enormous effort.
Thank you. Dr. Pritch, let me turn to you with Bosch, another captain of German industry. What's your perspective? Anything keeping you up at night, or do you also see it as something that's under control?
If I wake up at night, it's about the business opportunities that really make me excited.
That's good.
I would like to tell a story. When I was joining Bosch 3.5 years ago, I had one question to my boss. The boss is the CFO of the entire group. How does he see IT? Is it the classical role of the CIO, kind of commodity business, expecting less and less cost with higher quality year by year? Or would he like to really drive new ideas, create new opportunities, and make new business? The answer was 80% be creative, 20% commodity. Since the point I joined Bosch, we doubled in budget and headcount size. So IT is growing like hell. And why? Because we dream about the business opportunities. And what might be beneficial in the IoT world, the connected world of solutions, that you bring domain knowledge together with IT knowledge. At Bosch, we are quite advanced in mobility solutions. We have a deep knowledge and understanding of connected industry and also smart homes. I don't need to tell. I mean, here in Munich, BSH, white goods industry, quite popular. Combining the insight, I mean, small computers, these products are already coded by us. Communicating now with the IT in the backbone is an advantage. Plus, and I agree what you said, being open, creating ecosystems, inviting other partners to join. And this is something I believe will take off. I believe in Germany we have a great opportunity, especially in connected industry, to take off together. And I think it's really up on us to realize these opportunities.
Great, thank you. Let me then go to Dr. Clausen, who jumped in today for his boss. He's from the Corporate Technology Office of Siemens, but he's in charge of embedded security. He also is both involved in the IIC in the US, also the German platform Industry 4.0, so is a good boundary spanner between those two various bodies. Give us your perspective.
Okay. Does it work? Yes.
He'll
Thank
turn
you.
it on.
First of all, I have to admit, I usually don't wake up at night.
That's good.
I just be able to sleep through up to the morning. So in my company, we have a special role in this because we, first of all, we produce PLCs, and we use the same PLCs for our production by ourselves. So of course we have noticed and we have learned that security is not an issue of one stakeholder alone. It has to be implemented across the whole value chain. It has to be implemented together with the customer, together with the integrator, together with the operator. Because if somebody doesn't take his role in doing this security architecture, we have a hole in this security chain. And so we need to establish security architectures which are which cover the whole scenario, of course. And what we do, for instance, to get our customers enabled to use the security, we build into our products. We work together with ZVE or VDMA, also to enable small and medium enterprises to get a better awareness of a problem and to be able to address the security in their own processes.
How far along are the small and medium-sized enterprises in Germany? We talked about this at the break. I mean, 90% of German industry is small and medium-sized businesses. And here we have big companies. Is there a lot still to be done? Do they have the necessary people, in your view, to do what needs to be done?
There's a lot still to be done with small and medium enterprises. The large companies, we have the processes available. And in many cases, a small company, the owner doesn't know how to address this issue. He needs consultancy from somebody else. He needs the right consultancy from somebody else. Sometimes the people even ask us, where can we get this consultancy? We also address this with our salespeople. So there's a long road which has to be done. And this is what the German BSI president said today. We have to work on it, simply work on it and go further.
Okay. Ian Levy is here from the UK, the National Cyber Security Centre. So far, positive feelings as the chief security geek. Should we be more worried in Germany, or what's your view?
I'm the security geek. I've got to say we've got to be worried.
That was I was hoping for.
So I actually do worry, but probably not in the way you think. So I worry we are going to make exactly the same mistakes we've made for the last 45 years. Call it a different thing, and the impact is much, much bigger. So I want to do two little data points for you. Hands up if you know what a buffer overflow is. Come on. Seriously, audience participation time. Come on. So buffer overflow, probably still the most common security defect. First time it was publicly shown to be a security problem was in 1972. So you're 40, I'm a mathematician, what's that, 44 years of not fixing software. Do we think we're going to fix it in the next 3 for 50 billion devices? No. Second question, hands up if you've ever been told to never open an attachment or click a link in an email unless you trust it. Hands up if you've given that advice. You should be shot. Yeah, we should all be shot. It's stupid. Right? The only way to garner trust in an email, is to read the internet headers. I reckon I can do that 90% of the time. I am damn sure I cannot train 60-odd million people in the UK to do it ever. So as a piece of advice, it's unimplementable. So why are we doing it? We're doing it because we designed the system wrong. We are sitting here blaming the people for doing something they cannot possibly do because we designed the systems wrong. We are doing exactly the same thing in IoT. And a lot of it's because of language. So IoT is a really, really stupid name. It's a monumentally stupid thing to call it, because the sorts of interventions I can make in a $5 sensor that's got a battery that has to last 5 years is totally different to the interventions I'll make in a manufacturing plant running PLCs, is very different to the interventions I'll make in a fridge. Don't ask me why you want to internet connect fridge.
He wants that.
It's still beyond me.
He wants that.
It's still beyond me. I have children to do that. And the impacts are all different. And when you get onto big things like, I don't know, autonomous vehicles, the impact is no longer a plant shutdown. It's no longer information being stolen. It's death. And the current way we do risk management in cybersecurity, the narrative we allow to be used, which is hyperbolic rather than evidence-based, means that we will cause huge problems unless we intervene and do the right thing. And what we want to do at the NCSC is do it all based on evidence. Everything we do, we want to generate evidence, publish it, publish our analysis, and let people pick holes in it. Because science needs to come to cybersecurity, not fear.
Okay. I was feeling so good, and now I think I'm going to have nightmares again. Andrew, you're with the Industrial Internet Consortium, but you also work with a security firm. What's your view? Are you as dark as we just heard, or more positive like our big German firms?
Mixed. I would say mixed.
Okay.
And if the question is what keeps me, or what wakes me up at night, I would say, like my colleague here, I don't wake up at night. Sleep is for the weak.
You never go to bed.
Coffee is God's gift to the strong. But what I worry about is, as our speaker Yamoto-san said a few minutes ago, I worry about the safety consequences and the consequences for just the reliable operation of large, expensive, complex physical processes. I worry that so much of the advice out there, so many of the standards, make no distinction between different kinds of data. It's all data. Protect the confidentiality, the integrity, the availability of the data. The people on the plant floor usually don't care about the data. They care about things not blowing up in their face. They care about the production line keeping going. They care about safety and reliability. And different kinds of data have different impacts on safety and reliability. There's a difference between monitoring data, which is data. It might have trade secrets. It might be going out to the cloud. There's a difference between monitoring data and control. Unauthorized control frequently has completely unacceptable consequences. Compromised monitoring data or stolen monitoring data, be it privacy sensitive or corporate sensitive, has consequences analogous to other kinds of data compromise in the IT space, in banks, in credit cards, and whatnot. And that distinction is something that very few standards and guidance recognize. The good news, I did say I'd have some good news, is that the most modern of the standards and the guidance out there are starting to recognize this. So, for example, I'm with the Industrial Internet Consortium. We call out the difference between monitoring data and control data. Monitoring data flows up through an architecture from the lowest control system networks up into IT networks, up into the cloud, which might be local, it might be remote, but it's a cloud. Control data flows back down. The framework calls out that control data deserves the highest degree of scrutiny, because whenever we're moving from a less trusted network or a less critical network to a more critical network, we must examine each and every bit of data that comes down, each and every message that comes down for any reason, because any message can encode an attack. Other standards are starting to reflect this too. It's not just the IIC. ANSI in France, the Agence Nationale de la Sécurité du Système d'Information. That's the extent of my French.
Better than my French.
Identifies different classes of networks and basically says you're not allowed to put firewalls between the most sensitive networks and any less sensitive network, because firewalls allow information to move in both directions. The information flow must be unidirectional, hardware enforced unidirectional out. Nothing gets in. The NIST 882 advice in the United States says the same thing. So the most recent there's room to be optimistic about the most recent advice that we see out there, but I am still worried.
Let's hear from our industry representatives. How do you see that? Do you see this problems between control of data going up and down, or you solving those problems at Airbus or at?
Maybe just one comment. Airbus is not a German company. Maybe we wanted to be a German company, but
right.
Let's say it's a long way.
You're here in Munich. I counted that.
I know. That's fine. Thank you, Michael. I fully subscribe. Steering data, controlling data is a complete different, that has a complete different impact. Maybe in the monitoring data we see the plane is blue and not red, and so it's for KLM and not for Air Berlin. But if the control goes wrong and it gets the wrong color, then we are, that's saying, if that's only the color, that's not to worry about. But so this is definitely a different category of concerns. For me, the biggest topic in all this is those people on the work floor that do the operations of such machines are not IT affine, or there's no specialist. You really need to help them with very simple tools. They have no chance at all to get down, let's say, to become any form of expert. So the only thing that they now do with us, in let's say, in our most up-to-date systems, is they plug in the USB key. Either they get it back or they don't get it back. If they don't get it back, they know there's a problem. The second thing is they plug it into the machine. We know that the guy has authorization to plug it into the machine. It's controlled right away. We see. And then before anything happens, we know that it's allowed. So yes, this whole topic about control, I fully support. That is the main topic. And then again, you do have to keep a security operations center also for the ICS systems. There's no other option. You never can avoid, let's say, 100% safety.
Dr. Bridge?
Yeah, just to refer maybe to the more academic view of the situation. I mean, I would really recommend that we put the user into the center of all our considerations. I can really remember that about 18 years ago, there has been a discussion about the killer application for UMTS, the 3G generation of mobile networks, and there has been none. Everybody was saying there is no such a killer application. And we were just referring to the smartphones here in this room now, and all users accepted now 4G, and we are really consuming bandwidth that we had done for ages. And we underestimate, if we come from the technology perspective, the power of ecosystems finding use cases that really help consumers or industry or mobility to solve problems, real problems. And this is something, if I look into the kitchen in my home, this is the communication area number one in my house. Most decisions are made there. And regardless if we talk here or stop talking, the devices will be connected. There won't be a single fridge that will not be able to talk within, I think, 5 years of time. If you look in the Asian region, they have at least 5 cameras already inside. So regardless if we talk here in Munich about it or not, it will happen. And we should not underestimate the dynamics of this development. And I'm sure that we will find startups that find really good solutions with regard to the technologies that we can provide. And now when it comes to safety, we had a lot of, or security, we had a lot of discussion about there's a big communication task related to making our users and our customers aware of what they're doing. Maybe an idea would be really to think about a kind of trust label. I agree what you said, there's not one size fits all. I mean, domains are different and also expectations are different. It's a difference if my radio breaks compared to when my car breaks down while I'm on the highway. I agree. But we should maybe also display, like an energy label, a trust label for IoT, Internet of Things, that helps consumers to understand whether they can trust and what they get. So something we could define, for instance, as a standard also, that directly gets into the eyes of the consumer without really having the time to explain for ages what the technology standard stands for.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Clausen?
Yeah, concerning the label question, it's a little bit tricky in terms of security because security is a moving target. So if you've got a label regarding some product which is green, as some people think of, green, yellow, red label, and tells the customer this is green, this product has enough security, this could be changed within 2 or 3 months. And suddenly this label is broken and the whole system is broken. So we have to be very careful about this labeling issue. It's more a declaration thing, I think. The vendor has to tell the customer which kind of security is in it and how he has to use it. And since the vendor is maybe at this point the last element in this chain, in this value chain, he or she also needs this declaration from the component deliverer. When we want to deliver a device to our customers, and we include components from other vendors, we want to have a declaration from this vendor about the security status of this component. And for some component deliverer, this is quite new. They have to get used to these procedures. I don't want to have hidden functionalities in these components. I want to know exactly what this component is doing, because I need that for my threat analysis. Threat analysis has to be done also according to use cases of products and scenarios, and these are very particular and distinctive, and there's really also in this case no solution which fits for all. A quite simple example, in process industries, usually if you have some problem, you cannot shut down the process immediately from one second to the other. This may be too dangerous. In automation, you need security. In factory automation, you need security solutions which are quite fast, which regarding the complexity and the performance requirements you have. This may be quite different. If you talk about energy distribution, then suddenly you see devices which are located somewhere in the area. Everybody has access to it. Similar properties you have when you talk about mobility, about transportation system. So each vertical has its own problems and also its own history, and also in many cases own regulation already in place. Regulation mostly comes from the safety, from the safety problems they have in such a vertical. So what we have to do is we have to design, let's say, security frameworks which fit to certain verticals in an optimized way, and that fits quite well to the German IT security law we got last year. Because according to this law, we need to establish minimal security levels for each branch separately.
Yeah, you want to comment on that directly?
Just one comment, one small comment. I think we have to work towards at least the minimum, in my view, is safety analysis. Because security is a big term, but if we say that safety, we have to come for each product to at least the word. There is a safety analysis behind that. Yeah, sure. Anything that can endanger whatever, that is really critical. That let's say has a last kind of human check that you have to say, yes, I want this to happen or whatever. And I think because the word security is very, very broad, and I like to pick up what Jane said in the former panel also, you know, all those chipsets and things we use from providers, we have no clue around the world what they're doing. And I'm not sure that we're going to pass on from Airbus the 100,000 components and an Airbus A320 down to get a security or something commitment from all those suppliers. It will become impossible. So we need to find different approaches. And the word safety I like in that context very much. Pick up.
Can I come in? Sorry.
Well, let him respond to that and then you. Go ahead, Dr.
Just a remark on the safety issue. I think there's a big difference between security and safety. First of all, safety is a very important protection goal for the security. Security measures have to protect safety. That safety cannot be attacked from the outside. But when you talk about safety, you look at a system you know, and you provide safety architecture for the system you know and you have control over it. Security, you look at an attacker you don't know. Yeah. You actually do not know, and you have no real judgment how much effort this attacker is spending to attack your system. This is a real different principle. Of course, safety is very important. In other cases, we have a protection goal which is called privacy. Yeah? That's some sort of parallelism between safety and privacy. But security has to protect with mechanisms against malicious attacks from the outside. That's a model.
Ian?
So I just want to come back on the academic comment, because I assure you it's not academic. So let me be really blunt. I am responsible for managing all of your stuff in the UK. I have to make sure that it's secure enough, right? So when you don't sign your software, when you don't check authenticity of your software on a PLC, that causes me a problem. So I have real operational need for you to do it right. And most ICS vendors today do not. And okay, it's getting better, but it's a long way to go. I want to pick up on something Jane said before, building trusted systems out of untrusted components. And it goes to something Steve just said. The GB smart metering system has a very well specified safety and security case. So we can say any 3 faults or compromises in the system cause predictable failures with limited scale. And we've published the architecture, we've published the analysis. Nobody's come back and said we're wrong yet. If anybody wants to have a crack, go for it, please. I'd rather know before it was massively deployed. But we are starting to be able to do some of this stuff by taking hyperbole away. The other thing I think is really important is we can talk about products and chipsets till cows come home. It's when it's actually deployed and somebody goes, you know what, I don't want to carry 2 laptops around, so I'm going to connect my IT and my OT together. Done. Right? We're going back to the point about giving people really simple cues to pick a good product. We're going to start putting out, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, a set of 10 questions. Here's a question set for your board to ask your CIO. Right, the CIO is going to come back with lots of big words and try and blind you with science. Here's the cheat sheet answer. First question, do your admins browse the internet or receive mail on the same machine or the same account as they do their admin tasks? If the answer is yes, you're too stupid to help. Sorry.
There's only one.
Go ahead, Andrew. Then I have a question for you, but go ahead, you can comment. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, in more concrete terms, one of the big trends that's been going on for 30, 40 years now is connecting networks. The vision for the industrial Internet of Things with a lot of people is the ability to control a 2 gigawatt power plant from my cell phone while I'm stopped at a traffic light. To me, this is a very bad idea. You laugh. This is the vision. Everything's connected to everything. Let me give you an example close to home. To me, the most dangerous device in a modern home is the kitchen stove. This is not industrial Internet of Things, this is Internet of Things. A kitchen stove with a touch screen has a CPU controlling the burners. The problem with connecting everything together so that the stove can report to the home area network, which can report to the cloud, which can report to my cell phone, and I can see how much power my stove is using, aren't I clever? The problem with that is that every path that lets that kind of information exchange, that lets messages back, is a path of attack. Imagine a virus breaking into the home network through the TV because I was watching a video on the internet. And that virus reaching out through the home area network and compromising the stove and turning all the burners on. Okay, on 100,000 stoves at 2 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Eve. Okay, 1,000 stoves, someone's left something on the burner. Okay, bursts into flame, the house burns down. This is a disaster waiting to happen because we've connected everything together. To me, the kind of security that we need for safety critical processes is one where where safety critical consequences are, as much as we can make them, physically impossible. Not encrypted and authenticated. Physically impossible. There need to be 2 CPUs in the stove. One controlling the burners and a second one reporting power usage to the internet. And the second one is physically, because it can be compromised, is physically unable to reach into the burners and do things to the burners. To me, this is the right design, not just for stoves, but for anything to do with the industrial internet. It should be physically impossible to compromise safety critical, or for that matter, reliability critical operations.
Well, it's very good we have a guy who makes stoves, so you can, he can respond.
Yes. But I think that's security by design. I think if we interpret connected world by having all products directly talking to the internet, then it's wrong. And this is also not meant by connecting devices. We will always find in the domains I was mentioning a certain kind of decentralized computing power which resides in the car because there's a control unit. So it's not directly linked to the internet. Certain decisions have to be made when you're offline. The same applies to the home, and it also applies to production and manufacturing. So it's very important that you really consider the entire chain, as you said, and really secure by design the application. And I think on the other hand, coming to the opportunities, we should also reflect that we have different security levels. I mean, putting a sensor on the window would help us to understand whether the window is open, whether the window is broken, or whether we have to turn down or turn up the heat. This is something we will see also happening. Today, there are 5 million sensors produced per day by us, and they are put into smartphones, they are put into stupid devices in order to generate data. And again, we can talk about it, and it will happen. I mean, this is something we should really think about how to deal with it. There's a lot of opportunities related to that, and there's also a security by design that is the responsibility of the providers of the solutions in order to make really the user feel safe and secure.
Dr. Glasen, yeah?
Yeah, okay. I think what your example really shows quite well is that there is a difference between B2C and B2B. So when companies are talking among each other and doing relations like Industry 4.0 and doing computations and automatic negotiations, we have technicians in place, we have lawyers in place, we have a capacity to do it in the right way. Usually they should have. But the consumer needs much more protection from the outside when he's, for instance, using with very interesting scenarios with a refrigerator and the stove and all this fun. He cannot judge itself for himself. But he cannot do a threat analysis by its own and choose the right security measurements. So he has to be helped by somebody who, for instance, is selling this equipment. Yeah.
Ian?
Similar with a router in the basement for internet access.
It's the same thing, yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah. Most people, they just get equipment by the operator put down in the basement and don't know what happened. Yeah.
Ian, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, I was going to say, so you're absolutely right. 5 million sensors a day is happening. It's our job to make sure that it happens as safely and securely as possible, so the impact of things going wrong is minimised. You yourself said there's going to be startups aplenty. There's going to be SMEs doing things. They're not going to be security experts. They're not going to be sensor experts. They're going to be experts in breaking window technology or whatever. It's incumbent on us to make sure that things they buy by default provide them the atomic security primitives they need to be safe without them worrying about it.
What do you mean by us? The government or the big companies?
The community.
Okay.
So people who claim to be involved in cybersecurity need to get off their backsides and do something tangible. I include us in this. So we're going to start objectively differentiating things. So simple things. Do you do signed software? Do you sign them properly? Do you check the signature? Do you have externally accessible DMA? Blah, 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 blah. So instead of objective things that I can give you a tick or a cross, if you get lots of crosses, nobody's going to buy your stuff. Because the hyperbole around security and safety, especially when you're going into IoT because it's such a big market, is killing people. I don't mean literally killing people, I mean killing people's ability to innovate and do it securely. Sorry.
We only have 5 minutes left, so let's take some questions from you all now. You're the first. Do we have a microphone? A wandering mic? Here we go, over here.
Yeah, hello.
Say who you are, yeah?
Yeah, sure. My name is Alexander Löw. I have a double role. One is the national president for the World Jurist Association, strictly addicted to the rule of law. And the second one is the CEO of Data Warehouse, where we are specialists for IT trust management. And now we're coming to my question, because everybody's talking about technical safety, security issues, but I was wondering why you don't ask the user for transparency. Because for the GDPR, you're exchanging data with anybody, maybe with a cloud service, with anything. Why don't you ask the user or the user of your devices what data you are exchanging? How is the information be told? To decide if they want to exchange the information with your cloud, with your facilities, because this would be also the privacy by design and security by design, because everybody would be able to decide it. And this is one of the problems nowadays. We have a lack of transparency of all the systems. Maybe big automotive vendors exchanging information every day with every drive you're doing, and we do not know which information would be exchanged. And this is one of the questions to the panel. Maybe this would be a solution for this.
Yeah?
Yes. I think that's a very, very great point. I totally agree, because transparency is also differentiating, because I think, as you said, there's so many who really don't care. And in case you really, I think we heard the example some hours before, if you really want your data back, you don't get it. So this is something, maybe it helps for the one reason, we are used to produce products that secure lives. So I feel quite comfortable. When you're doing braking systems, when you do stability programs, we are always saving lives. So it's natural somehow for us to save lives. So I'm not afraid of that. But second, when it comes to really trust, we will ask our customers, and we already do so with all the products we are having out, that we tell them that we are providing the cloud ourselves. So we are building up in our data centers the data, and we know where they are. And if they want them back, they get them back. And this is something, especially for the personal information. This is very important. I think there's a lot of use cases where you can anonymously use data. You have to ask for acceptance there as well. But I think there's a lot of benefit also coming back to the user, knowing that if he maybe uses a product wrong, and you can tell him that there's a benefit in using it differently, he might accept that his data is anonymously used to be analyzed. But when it comes to personal data, we are very strict and we are very clear.
Anybody else? Over here?
I have a question for Mr. Pritch. In your statement, you mentioned twice the term ecosystems. Could you elaborate a bit further on how that is linked to cyber?
Yes. What we build up is in the domains, mobility, connected industry, and home, based on our building blocks that we define, and security is one building block we are integrating into this platform. A world where we invite partners, where we really address developers to design solutions in these domains. Knowing that connected things means we have a piece of hardware, that's usually our part, there's some software in it, but when these products start to talk, you need companies that are really great and the brilliant minds that design services with these products that can talk. And in these three domains, we believe there will be ecosystems coming up. It's our role to guarantee by our framework and our platform that there's a secure communication, that there's building blocks included that help us to really facilitate increasing the security level. But what we will see, there's no single company in the world that has enough developer community to really create an ecosystem. So if you don't open up and build on a framework, you will never succeed.
You had mentioned
all the most valuable companies you can see in the world, they have ecosystems created with this principle. And I think we should do the same, starting here in Germany, inviting everybody who would like to join. I like this. It's a good idea.
You can comment on that, right, from Airbus?
Many are doing that, of course, and I let's say certainly Siemens and others are doing that, and Airbus is also doing that. And we are creating those exactly those ecosystems. Still, the cyber protection, the secure communication element, the element that that the sensor data coming in is not corrupted, and so the consequences of the right data going then into the world, that's your responsibility. So that doesn't take away the responsibility, and I don't want to say liability, but at least the responsibility of making sure that what is on your ecosystem and is used by other partners is then having a level of security that makes sure that nothing can go wrong, but that the likeliness of something goes wrong is very low.
And that's why it's good to have conferences like this, to get the ecosystem partners together. And we're out of time. Thank you to all the panelists for your contributions.